Welcome, everyone, to the Inspirational Businesswoman Show, where it is my passion and my purpose to provide you, the viewer, with a goldmine of inspirational tips, advice, and strategies to help you grow your business from inspirational businesswomen in the know. And today we have such a guest, and her name is Debbie Hoffman. And I'm very excited to introduce you to her in just a moment. But before I do, if you would be so kind as to help spread the word about this wonderful show, all about authentic follow-up that gets more yeses, I'll go ahead and play the preview trailer and you go ahead and help spread the word. And I'll be right back with the interview in just a moment. So once again, welcome to the Inspirational Businesswoman Show. I am your host, Virginia Parsons, and I want to thank you all for being here, whether it is live or via replay. I appreciate that you are taking the time out of your busy schedule to enjoy what I know is going to be a very inspirational interview with Debbie Hoffman. And I also want to say thank you for being a fan of the show for so many years. I know some of you have been following me for 6 years, and I know that you've gotten some great value from these interviews. And that's why we always appreciate it when you help spread the word to some of your fellow associates who might benefit from this information. So thank you once again for being here. Please let us know in the comment where you're viewing from. We'd love to hear from you, and we acknowledge you're taking the time to be here. Thank you once again. Now, today's show is sponsored by hangout-marketing.com, where you can receive a complimentary live stream assessment. And why might you want to take that? Well, it's only going to take a couple of minutes. And as a result, you're going to find out where you might need some support around live streaming so that you can brand, grow, and market yourself and stand out as the expert that you are. So it'll only take a couple of moments, and to take advantage of it, all you have to do is text pound success to 775-800-4179. Or if you're out of the country, you can just go to hangout-marketing.com. Now, let's get going with this interview because I know you're going to love what Debbie has to share with us. Debbie Hoffman is the founder of Power Up Your Follow-Up. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is, are you using authentic follow-up in your own business so that you can get more yeses? Well, here's the topics we're going to be discussing today to help you get more yeses in your business. First of all, how to enjoy networking and develop relationships that lead to more clients and referrals. I can't wait to talk to Debbie about that. Secondly, how to implement proven systems to develop and maintain your relationships. And you know, relationships are the cornerstone of growing a business that is founded on consistent interaction with people so that you build a loyal following. And then finally, we're going to be talking about how to have more confidence and be more magnetic when you follow up. So Debbie, come on in, say hi to our audience. It's so great to have you here today.
Well, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Virginia.
You know, Debbie, I just want to say to you that you have been really the example of the importance of follow up. So I have watched you doing this. I observed you doing it with me. And it's just so great to see what you preach in action. I'm wondering, I think that this is something that a lot of people neglect in their business because they're so busy and they're wearing so many hats. How is it that you came to realize that this was foundational to your own business and you decided to start teaching it? Was there what I call a defining moment in your life that moved you down this path?
Definitely. It's a long story, so I'll give the Reader's Digest version of it. But what happened was, um, we went through bankruptcy and foreclosure and lost everything, and it was very devastating. And for a while, I was being a victim, and I really couldn't focus. I was very depressed. Then I reached out to a coach, and she's helped pull me out of that hole, and I started getting back into my business. I was doing a health and wellness business at the time, and I went to an event where I had a booth, and a woman came up and was very interested in the products and asked me to follow up with her because she wasn't ready to make a decision. And I did that for 14 months. Not easy to do, but I kept going. And finally, she became a client. And a couple weeks into it, I kept following up with her like I do with all my new clients. And one day she left me a message and said, Debbie, I need to know your system. You have an amazing follow-up system. Obviously, I really struggle with this. We need to talk. And I had no idea what she was talking about, Virginia. So finally we got on the phone and she said, Debbie, no one follows up with me the way you do. You have a gift. People are struggling with this. No one follows up with me. And she runs a speakers association. So she's meeting people all the time. And so she said, you need to do something with this because people are struggling. And I had no idea I was doing anything unique or special. I had no idea people were struggling. But I'm so grateful to her for encouraging me to start this business because that's how it got started. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't wake up one day and say, I'm amazing at follow-up. I need to teach people this. It took somebody outside of me to make me aware of that. And I think that happens for so many people, Virginia, that we all have gifts. We all have something that we do naturally that we take for granted. And sometimes we need somebody to point it out to us. So I've been able to help hundreds and hundreds of people since starting this business, all because of her inspiration and encouragement. So that's really how it all got started. And when I started doing this business and speaking to people and being more aware of the situation, I realized people are really struggling with this. It is the missing piece of the puzzle for so many entrepreneurs. I'm finding that they're making everything else more important, like having a beautiful website, getting wonderful marketing materials together, having Facebook ads, and they're not following up. And you can have all of those things in place, but if the follow-up isn't in place, all that time, energy, and money that you're investing to do all those other things is going to be wasted. So that really breaks my heart to see. And so I'm really on a mission to make people aware that they've got to pay attention to this part, or else they're just not going to maximize their results.
I so understand what you're saying. And you know what? You're the first person in the 6 years that I've been doing this show that has had this topic. That says a lot,
Yes,
doesn't
it
it?
does. It
Because
does.
it's sort of it's falling through the cracks. And I think as a result, people must be missing out on a lot of potential dream clients only because sometimes you follow up and it's not the right timing. There's a lot of
Exactly.
reasons when you follow up that people say no. And I know you're going to talk about the importance of doing follow up for so many times because, the average person doesn't. They stop after two or
Exactly.
three. And I know you've talked about that. So I think this is really important what you're going to be sharing with everyone. And I thank you. I'm so sorry you went through the bankruptcy, but for those of us who are now learning your valuable tools and your system, thank you for going through that for the rest of us.
Really, I wouldn't be doing this business if that hadn't happened. At the time, I knew that there was a reason. I knew that one day I would know, and it took a while for me to figure it out. But my story touches people very deeply. When I share, when I speak, people always come up to me and say, thank you for sharing that story. I'm going through something similar. You've given me hope. And they realize I've been through it. And I created my coaching practice and went from 0 to 6 figures in 14 months because I tapped back into my follow-up system. If I hadn't had that system, I don't know where I would be right now. So people see that I've done it. so I can help them do it. And it just, it gives them hope. And that's what it's all about. Because you never want to give up on your dreams. Like that's my why for this is helping people to make their dreams come true. And when they follow up, that will happen.
Yes, and they have the gifts. But as you
Exactly.
say, the gifts aren't getting fulfilled to the degree that they could be if they had a good follow-up system in place. So,
Exactly.
that really leads to the first topic we're going to be talking about, and it is around networking and developing relationships that lead to more clients and referrals. So, tell me a little bit about this. How does this fit into your overall system?
So what I find, Virginia, is that most people go to networking events with the intention to find clients and to sell their stuff. And that just doesn't work anymore. And people who are going to these events are telling me, like when clients start working with me, they tell me, I don't want to network anymore because when I go, people are trying to sell me and it's repulsive. And so my whole philosophy is to not go to a networking event to sell and get clients, but to go actually to build relationships and provide value and see how you can help people. And also to look for those people who are power partners for you, or in the coaching world, they're known as JV partners, those people who have similar clients as you do, but are not in competition with you. And when you go to an event looking for those people and see how you can collaborate and help them, they're going to want to help you in return. And what happens is, and my clients are telling me this all the time, and I notice it when I network, is that when you come from a place of service and wanting to help people, their guard will come down and their heart will open up because they'll realize this person's not trying to sell me something. They're actually trying to help me. Like what a breath of fresh air this person is. And what happens is when their guard comes down, their heart opens and they want to help you and do whatever they can in return. And I see it happen all the time. So it's all about building those relationships, and the networking event's just the first step. After that, you want to get together with people for a cup of coffee to deepen the relationship and see if and how you might be able to support each other, to get to know each other better and see if you're a good fit for each other. So it's a whole different intention around networking. The other piece is a lot of people go to these networking events and they're not prepared with what they're going to say when people ask what they do. And so what ends up happening is when you ask them, they hose you down for 5 minutes. This just happened to me at an event. I met a guy, I asked, so what do you do? And he went on for 5 or 10 minutes. And I was just like, get me out of here. Finally at the end, he stopped and said, so what about you? But you don't want to, we don't want to be that person because it's really annoying. So it's all about, I'm so big on preparation, Virginia, for every step of the follow process, and networking is a big part of that. Being prepared with what you're going to say, and also being prepared with what questions you're going to ask people, and when you have that intention to build the relationships and find those power partners, you're going to be asking certain questions that are going to bring you to that end result. So when you have the intention in mind, everything that you do is going to help you to get there. So those are two key things.
So rather than throwing up on someone, literally, when you first meet them and they say, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
What are you recommending? Like, you don't want an elevator pitch either. Don't you just want
No.
something that helps them connect with you on a personal level? Do you have any tips for our viewers on that?
Yeah, I have a formula that I share with my clients, but what I'll share with the audience now is you just want it to be a couple of sentences. That's it, where you're sharing the problem that people have who you work with and the solution that you provide, the results people get. So it's like problem and solution. It's very simple and super short. And the whole thing is that you don't want to tell them everything because then they'll have nothing to ask you. You want to be kind of mysterious and get them curious and have them say, tell me more, or how do you do that? So just focus on the problem you solve and the results people have. Most people will share about their process or the name of their company. And you want to share benefits results because people are always going to think, what's in it for me? And when you share from the point of view of the problem, if they're having that problem, if they're struggling with that, they will go, oh, she's talking to me, or, oh, I get it. I know exactly what she's talking about. So the more specific you are, the better. You want people to lean in. That's the whole thing. You want people to lean in and want to know more.
Yeah, and I think you made such a good point earlier about setting your intention for the networking event.
Yeah.
that the intention is to go there and get to know people, build relationships, and find out how you can support someone else to see if there might be a fit from a JV standpoint. And again, you demonstrated that to me so well when we first met, and just jumped in and said, how can I help you? And let me send something out to my group. And of course I would pay attention to that and feel an immediate warmth and connection to you, as opposed to the pitch feeling. So I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you from a personal level for demonstrating what you teach, and obviously it works really well.
Well, look at where we are now, right? So
Yeah.
thank you I totally forgot about that. And thank you, because it totally you experienced what I was just talking about. And that's the beauty of it, because I had no agenda. I really didn't. I just wanted to help you. And you had a program that I thought would be fabulous for my clients. And I said, let me send out an email and see who's interested. And one person, I think, ended up signing up for your program. So
Yeah.
you just never know what's going to happen. And I just love to give and help. And sometimes it's who you can connect people with, to be thinking of folks who would be a great partner for them or a great client for them right off the bat. If you feel a good connection and you like the person's energy. And I thought you were awesome. I liked you right away. And I felt, I follow my intuition, and it felt good. And here we are now, creating this relationship together, and
Yeah.
now you're interviewing me on your show. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all about coming from the feminine. Like, it's all about, we all have that feminine part and the masculine part, men and women. And the masculine part is where we get stuff done, and the feminine part is where we connect. And I'm really always talking to my clients. Just yesterday, I was on a coaching call with my clients, and there's a lot of high-powered women who are more masculine, coming from the head. And I was talking about how people are craving connection, and we need to be more vulnerable and share from our heart and share our story, be authentic, and let people feel us. And that's when the trust is developed and they want to do business with us.
Yeah, and I think you really nailed it when you were. It's interesting that you phrase it as coming from the feminine or the masculine, but coming from the feminine, for we ladies, that at least feels much more authentic.
Yeah.
And yet, so oftentimes we've been taught by so-called, masters about this kind of delivery that just gets right into the point and doesn't take the time, doesn't pause. I like it like a pause, a gentle pause that opens up the space to actually have a conversation, not a presentation, right?
Exactly. Yes. I love that. Yep.
So how do you put this into an actual system that people can implement? Because it's one thing to go to an event and go with a new intention, which is just to develop relationships and connect with people. But how do people actually step into a system? People would be following up more if they weren't trying to do so much else, as you say, to have the perfect website, et cetera. I'm thinking that's also important. But how do you work your kind of a system into what they're already trying to do, as so many solopreneurs are wearing way too many hats as it is?
So great question. So when I talk about system, there's two different parts to it. One is having the technology in place to help you keep track of all of the people you're meeting. And it's called a CRM, a customer relationship management system. And I'm surprised and shocked every time I speak how few people actually have a system in place. So what's happening is they're collecting, boxes and baggies and drawers full of business cards. They don't know what to do with them. And so I was just talking to a brand new client the other day, and she just, she needs a plan. So, the system involves, again, it's how to network, being prepared for that, what we've already talked about. And then what do you do after a networking event? How do you follow up with people? What do you say? How often do you follow up? What are the best ways to follow up with people? Do you call them? Do you send an email? Do you text? Like, what do you do? And so with the CRM, you put all your contacts information into the CRM and all the notes that you remembered about your conversation. And then when you follow up with them, if you don't reach them, you set a reminder in the system for the next step. So that will help you keep on track, and people won't slip through the cracks. So you used that term before, and I use that all the time about, ideal clients are slipping through the cracks, and money is slipping through the cracks. So when you have a system that reminds you of when the next step is going to be, then they won't slip through the cracks. I just had a woman join my mastery program who I've been following up with for 3 or 4 years. And I just noticed that there was some email I sent to her in 2016. And she finally said yes. So you were right before when you were talking about the timing. The timing wasn't right. I knew she wanted to work with me, and I didn't get discouraged, but I had a reminder set, so I never lost track of her. And there are people I followed up with for 2 years, 3 years, the woman with 14 months. And it's all because I had a system. So the technology is the first step. And then where I come in when I talk about the step-by-step follow-up system or blueprint is knowing what to do, knowing what to say, the languaging around it, because it's so important how you language things. Like you were mentioning, Virginia, about that masculine and how we were trained by men, a lot of us, and it's that languaging that's more masculine. And so over the years, I've been, from my Wall Street days, I worked on Wall Street for 20 years, and it was very masculine, and I was really coming from my head a lot. So I've been, the last few years on this journey of coming out of my head into my heart, and my language has been changing over the years to be more feminine language. So one of the things that my clients say they love about working with me is how I language things and how I take what they've said and just condense it and make it so much more powerful, and make it so that you're always showing up in service to people and asking for permission and never going to the next step without making sure you have their buy-in.
So, so valuable what you're talking about, because it's not just the system, but it is your way of communicating. That is
Exactly.
obviously a style that we all have that's unique and individual to us, but also is something you can cultivate so that it resonates more with people. So I really appreciate that. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But before we go forward with that idea, I'd want to pause with the CRM system itself. Do you use a VA to enter all that information in? For instance, if you've been to a big networking event, you've collected a massive number of cards, as you say, so often they just get tossed aside or people don't have time to follow up. How do you make sure that that system gets implemented?
Well, when I first started out, I didn't have a budget because I was recovering from the bankruptcy and foreclosure. So I did everything myself. Now I have a few VAs that do different things for me. So they input everything, but also my system has a card scanner. So I don't go to networking events much. I do more of my business online, but I just went to 2 conferences or business type retreats, and I had some cards and I just took pictures. The app is on my phone. There's the scanner that connects right to the system, and it goes right in. So I recommend people find out once they get a CRM if there's a business card scanner capability with their CRM, or if there's one that they can connect to their CRM, and that makes it so much easier. But I highly recommend that people delegate entering all that information to a virtual assistant. And even if you think you can't afford it, you can, because what happens is you pay somebody $8 an hour in the Philippines or somewhere overseas to do that for you. And then you're going to have the time to have enrollment conversations, discovery sessions with people that only you can do. And you only want to do those things that are your genius and delegate everything else out. So at the beginning, what I did was I hired a VA for like 1 hour a week and then 2 hours a week. And I gradually increased it and found that my business skyrocketed because now I had more time to meet people, to have conversations with them, to follow up, to have discovery sessions, to see if we were a good fit. So I know a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh, I can't afford it, but you can't not afford it. You don't want to be spending time entering people's information into your CRM.
Well, that's what I was thinking, is that, this is a system and you want it to trigger that you make contacts with people at the appropriate time. You don't want to spend your time, as you say, putting all the information in. So when you get someone's card and you've had a conversation, do you make notes on the card that you then also scan in? How does that work?
So what I do at the event when we're starting to talk and I find that there's a good connection, I'll ask them for their card right away and I'll write some notes down on the card. On the back, so that when I scan it, the notes aren't all over there, because then the scanner won't be able to read their phone number and email and their name. And then immediately I enter those notes into the CRM when I get back. So I have to do that manually. But you can copy, copy both sides of the card, scan it to your VA, and they can do that as well. I just do that because there's certain things about the conversation that I want to capture, what they were interested in. anything that will help me remember who they are. So I like to do that myself.
That sounds like a good idea as well. All right. So these are great things. Do you have a CRM that you really highly recommend, or do you just suggest people go and research that yourself?
No, I've done research and I have a resources tab on my website. It's powerupyourfollowup.com/resources. Powerupyourfollowup.com/resources. And I have one of my favorites. It's a CRM and email marketing system combined into one. It's also got the calendar system in there. It's also got like a ClickFunnels type, so everything's built into it. So you can have a landing page and you can have all of your campaigns built into it. It's called Cultivating Sales. And I have a link there on my resources tab. I love that. If people just need a simple CRM and they're not doing any email marketing, they're not doing anything fancy, just super simple. I have a few there that I like. Less Annoying CRM is one, and FitFu, Fortune is in the follow-up, is another one.
Okay, this is great information. Thank you for sharing it. And I also want to remind you, stick around into the end because in addition to Debbie's resources, she has a gift for you, and we'll be providing that link for you very shortly. But before we do that, I really want to talk about this third, what I call hot topic, and that is about developing confidence. And as the term that Debbie uses, a magnetism around the connections that you make with people. So, how do you do this, Debbie? Can you give us just a few quick tips that we can take home and apply in our business today?
So, of course, so what I'm finding is that my clients are telling me when they know what to do and know what to say at every step of the process, so they have their plan in place, they naturally become more confident. And what I'm finding is that so many people have limiting beliefs and stories and fears that come up when they're following up with people. I'm not good enough. Are they going to hire me? Are they going to think that, I provide value? Oh, they're too busy, or they're not going to be interested. Like all this stuff comes up. They fear being rejected. All those things come up. So when people know what to do and say, they're more confident, and it helps some of those issues to drop off, up more confidently. And when they're more confident, they become more magnetic. And I had this experience last May when I did my live event. I had some clients that were there that had been, they were about, yeah, they were almost finished with their 6-month program. And there was 2 of them in particular. And I was watching them interacting with people and networking, because we did some segments during the event where they got to network with other people there. And the way they showed up was so different. They were so confident. They were so at ease. They were happy. They were joyful. And they became magnetic as a result of that. Because when you're more confident and you show up more as a leader, and you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, you know what your intention is, you will show up differently. And energy is very subtle, but very powerful. And people will be attracted to you. I've had people come up to me and say, I have no idea what you do, but I want to get to know you. Like they just felt some energy from me from across the room, or maybe I stood up in front of the room, or whatever it was. They've come up to me and said this. And my clients are having that same thing happen. So that's why it's really important to have that system and know what you're doing and have a
Well,
plan.
yeah, I'm going to just sort of reiterate for the viewers the real foundational essence we're saying and what you teach is that you have worked through some of the right things to say and how to say them, because it's not just about having a script. It's about how you deliver. It's
It's who
about
you're
how you
being.
actually come up to the conversation and share that information. But what you're saying, I also hear, is know what questions to ask, know what you're going to say about what you do. And that's what, so that's sort of a mental rehearsal thing that you need to do in preparation. But once you do, now you're postured to be naturally
Exactly.
confident, authentic, and that's what makes you magnetic. Am I sort of rephrasing things that make sense?
Yes, and just one thing I want to tweak there, it's practicing not only mentally, but actually speaking out the words and practicing with someone before you show up at the event. Because just remember, in an instance, when you were at an event and you asked somebody what they do, and they kind of had this sheepish body language, and they kind of look down and they kind of stumble like they didn't know what to say because they weren't prepared. And what's your reaction to that? Like you might think, well, maybe they're not really serious about their business, or maybe they just do it as a hobby, or you're not very impressed by that. So when you know what you're going to say and people ask, what do you do? And you just share it confidently, you're going to be more magnetic, right? And they're going to go, wow, this woman is like on her game, or this guy is on his game. Like he knows what he's doing. Like you just show up so much more, so much differently. And when you are prepared in all these different ways with the questions you're going to ask people, with what you're going to say, and it's also about who you're being and how you're showing up. So it's your energy, it's your passion, it's your excitement that is really going to attract people. So the words can be perfect, but if it's delivered in a flat, boring way, then you're not going to get the lean in. So the words are 7% of the effect that you have on people. So 93% is your body language, your tone of voice, how you express yourself. So that's why, I help my clients get the words down of what they're going to say, but then I have them create a video and post it in our Facebook group so I can see how they're delivering what they're sharing, so I can critique and give them some ideas of how they can be more magnetic and get more lean in from people.
Oh, that is so valuable. And just to reiterate that the words are only 7% is so important. So yeah, you're really talking about the fact is you really do have to just practice. And it's not just mental. You have to practice, and you have to get into a space where you can practice. And I'll bet a lot of your clients do this. As you say, they'll deliver a video or they'll practice in your support group. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I have mastermind groups that
Uh-huh.
people are meeting twice a month, and they're practicing everything we're working on and role playing all of the action steps that I give them in the program, so that when they go out into the real world, they've got it down. Like it's a safe practice, a safe space to practice and get feedback from people. So they ask, hey, are you leaning in? Did I get your attention? Or what can I tweak? Right? So it's really important to have that, and even to have an accountability partner as well. So these are all really important things to do, so that when you go out there and you're, for real sharing what you do with people, that you're just grounded and you're confident, and you come across in such a different way.
This is just so valuable. And I want to sort of wrap it up before we give the gift link to everyone around the idea that what is happening to the people that you work with. I have to assume not only are they transformed from a level of being more confident, more authentic, and as you say, more magnetic, but it's got to be showing up on their bottom line. Do you have any story you want to share about how it is impacting the people that you work with because they now have a real follow-up system?
I would love to. So I have a client who's a professional organizer and interior designer. And when we met, her business was doing okay, but it kind of stalled out. She hated networking because of what we were talking about earlier, that everybody was just hosing her down. And she also felt pressure to go and get clients, and she didn't like that. So we talked about the intention, and shifted her whole mindset. So I really work with my clients around mindset, about follow up, and major shifts happen, and they look at things in a totally different way. So she said, oh, I can go to a networking event to support people and see how I can help them. I can do that. And then we worked on what she was going to say in front of the room, which is a little different. When you get to stand up for 30 seconds, it's a little, the 30-second infomercial is different than the what do you do statement. And so she prepared in advance, and at the event, 3 people or more came up to her afterwards and said, we have never heard such a compelling infomercial, and I want to get to know you better. So what ended up happening is she got 8 new clients in the first 6 weeks of working together. $20,000 in income came in, and she has gone on now to love networking. She's now dating networking events to find the right one. And I have this thing called a chicken list, which are those people that you put off calling, you've been afraid to call.
Yeah.
And she's had a woman on her chicken list who was a referral. And that's, like, to me, such a crime. If someone refers someone to you, you want to make sure you call them. So she called this woman, ended up having a meeting with her. The woman was so impressed. And so she works for an assisted living facility, and they were looking for someone to refer all their clients to who were moving and downsizing. And my client helps elderly people to downsize and move into assisted living facilities. So she is now their main person, and she's brought in $50,000 in income from that one woman who was on her chicken list. So
Wow.
I know, it's amazing. And her confidence has gone through the roof. And she said to me, Debbie, I'm doing things that I never would have done. She's speaking now. She's just doing things, just creating so much more abundance in her business because of how she's showing up and because she has a system in place. So it's
Yeah,
been a
that's just a
delight.
great example of the money's in the follow-up, isn't it?
Fortune is in the follow up for
Fortunes
sure.
in the, I like that even better. The fortunes in the follow-up. Well, you've just given us so much valuable information and we want to hear from you. Just keep your comments coming. We'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them. But if you've stayed until now, and I hope that you have, Debbie has a very special gift for you. And what I'm going to do is to put the gift link up on the screen, and then Debbie's going to tell you what's in it for you, why you might want to go pick up this gift. So, Debbie, here is the link for it. It is hmtips.com/Debbie gift. Debbie, tell them all about it, would you?
I would love to. So this is brand new, hot off the press. I've never done anything like this before. And it's 3 key scripts to power up your sales without being salesy. I have never shared scripts with anyone other than my clients up until now. And these are scenarios that you encounter all the time. So I was talking about the languaging and how key that is and how you communicate with people. So I wanted to give this gift to your audience. So it helps with 3 different scenarios. One is, let's say you found a card buried in your stack and you can't remember who that person is, or maybe you remember who they are, but you're uncomfortable calling because it's been so long. So there's a voicemail script for doing that. There's also a script for when if you do a discovery session or you have a conversation with somebody who's interested in working with you, but they don't say yes on that call, what do? They've gone MIA. So how do you follow up with them? And then the third is you met someone at an event and you think you might be able to be good, power partners, you might be able to collaborate. What do you say? So these are 3 scenarios that people experience all the time. So I was very mindful of the scripts that I decided to share because I wanted them to provide tremendous value. And then when you create them, you can store them in your CRM so that you have them handy and you have easy access to them.
Wow, what an awesome gift. I know I'm going to be taking advantage of it. Make sure you go there. It's hmtips.com/Debbie gift. And I know that if you start to learn and practice some of these scripts yourself, you're going to be in a position to feel more confident and more magnetic in your conversations. Debbie, I'm just so pleased to have had you on the show today. You've just delivered so much valuable information. And before we go, one last thought, like the final take home tip that you want to share with people. Do you have anything that's like, if you do nothing else, do this? Go ahead.
Well, my whole mission is to help you share your gifts and get your message out in a big way and make a huge impact in the world. That's what I'm all about. And if you're not following up with people, you're going to be the best kept secret. And there could be many, many people out there that are still struggling. And so I feel we have a moral obligation to follow up with people, because if we don't, people will continue to struggle. And whether they accept our invitation or not is up to them. Our responsibility is to reach out and do our part and leave it to them to make the decision of whether they feel it's a good fit or not. So to me, it's really about we all have gifts and we need to share them and we need to get them out. So like I said, all those things can be in place, but if you're not following up, nobody's going to know about you. And this isn't on people's radar screen. So I hope today that people now are thinking about this. Wow. And also one thing I didn't share is the follow-up process is the sales process. So I teach the entire scope of the process because they're one and the same thing. So people have to get comfortable and feel good about following up and the sales process, or else they're not going to make the difference they're here to make.
Beautiful. And, it kind of sums it up when you take it off of, I should be doing something on the follow up and turn it into, you have a moral obligation to follow up.
Yeah.
That puts it into a whole different perspective. And so I love that as your last take home moment. I hope all of you will follow up with Debbie. And again, go pick up her gift because she's never shared this before. It's hmtips.com/Debbie's gift, 3 key scripts to power up your sales. I'm looking forward to checking that out myself, Debbie. And again, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say to all of you, thank you for being here, whether live or in replay. We appreciate you and your sharing this valuable information with people that you know. So thank you again, and we'll see you all on the next Inspirational Businesswoman Show. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for having me. This was awesome. Thanks, Virginia.
Thanks so much for watching today. Do you know someone who would be a great guest for our show? Or would you like to be a guest on the Inspirational Businesswoman Show? Let's shine the spotlight on your expertise. We'll share your story while offering tips, strategies, and advice to our viewers. Expert interviews are a great way to build your reputation as the go-to expert. Go to shinetips.com/IBWS to apply today. Women are waiting for your message, and I can't wait to